So I'm Jeremy Corbell, and I've read your article the best I could, being translated from Hebrew.
Yeah, I hope they're going to have a better translation, like a professional translation, maybe later this week. So if there is one, I'm gonna mail it to you. Okay?
That's great. Yeah. So I basically have 10 questions for you.
Sure.
I just want to start off just by if you can tell me your name and your occupation.
Okay, my name is Ranan. Ranan is my first name. Shaked is the last name. Ranan Shaked. I'm a writer for Yediot Achronot Daily. The Yediot Achronot is the biggest daily in Israel, and I mostly do magazine articles and features for the weekend magazine, and some other stuff as well. But that's my main thing.
You recently did an article with Professor Haim Eshed, and your
Right.
story broke the internet. I mean, it received global exposure. Excerpts of your story, have been featured on CNN, NBC, Fox News, Forbes magazine, Vice, and even TMZ. Were you surprised by the global reaction to your recent article?
Yes, very much so. Usually articles that are published here don't get that much coverage from world media, unless they have to do with security issues or that sort of stuff. But yeah, usually you would get coverage from Israeli press and so forth, but you won't get that much world coverage. So yeah, that was quite a surprise. Yeah. And actually, I didn't think it was going to get all that because although it was kind of interesting and thought provoking, speaking to Professor Eshed, I don't know if what he was saying was such a mind blowing thing. I mean you've heard about some of the phenomena before if you read some articles and were into ufology in any sort of way. So he's just I guess a leading figure and a major figure here and possibly worldwide. So when it comes from him, possibly it has some more impact.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to talk with you about. I mean, your article was kind of chopped up and they took little quotes and made them the lead, but I was
Right.
able to read the full story, which has a lot more context. So how you're showing that it wasn't as impressive to you, this stuff has been covered. It shows the appetite of the global public about the UFO phenomenon at this time. But what you said is really critical. It's who is saying it. So can you tell me from an Israeli perspective or global perspective about Professor Eshed, who he is, what he's done in his life, separate from all of this?
Basically, he's one of the leading figures in Israeli aviation. He has been for years. He's 81 years old now, and he's not even retired. I mean, he still works for some establishments, I think. But what he's best known for is his work in kind of inventing and putting together the first Israeli satellite back in the 80s, which was a big deal because Israel was at the time, and it still is, but it's not a major player in any of these fields. And we were actually the seventh country, I think, globally to launch a satellite. So that was a big thing back in the 80s. And then he was also he was for like 29 years, I think, the head of the Israeli space agency, and he actually started it and he led it for almost 3 decades. So yeah, he's a major figure. And he won a couple of prizes, like prizes for stuff that he did here that weren't even published. I mean, it's still being censored. I mean, you can know, it was published that he won the awards, but they couldn't publish what it was for, like national security type of thing. So yeah, he's very he's a senior character.
Yeah, so I've got 5 bullet points of his career that are public, and he's a retired brigadier general in the Israeli
Yeah.
forces, former director of the space programs, as you mentioned, for the Israeli Ministry of Defense for 30
Right.
years. He was an officer in the Israeli military intelligence, and he served in a very secret unit, Unit 81, serving the defense forces. Throughout his career, as you mentioned, he received the Israel Defense Prize 3 times.
Right.
The nature of which is classified, why he won that prize,
Right.
and a couple other things. I mean, he's also a professor at the Asher Space Research Institute, holds a bachelor's degree in electronics and engineering, a master's degree, a doctorate in aeronautical engineering.
Well,
He's
you
been
need to know
described
everything about him.
he's been described in your media as the father of the Israeli satellite program. So, by all means, this gentleman is credible when it comes to space and space aviation.
You
So,
would think, yeah.
did you find him credible as a human being sitting in that room with him or interviewing him? Did you find him
Yeah,
credible?
very much so. As I was mentioning, he's not very young, but he's very, he's totally there. He's very well educated about everything he speaks about. I mean, as far as I can tell, and he's very energetic. Sometimes he would want to, he would jump from one point to another just because he wanted to say so much about so many things. But other than that, he's very much, he was there. He was an excellent interviewee.
Did you know? Did you know what he was going to talk about? Did you know he was going to talk about UFOs and aliens before you went in to interview this exceptional individual?
I kind of did. The reason we met was his book. He published a book about his basically an autobiography, and most of the book, like 2/3 of the book, aren't about ufology. It's about his life and his career and everything that you have described and some other stuff. But the last part of his book, like maybe quarter of the book, is about ufology and findings from the last decade or so. And obviously, we were very much interested in that. And I thought he was gonna, I didn't know how willing he would be to discuss that at length. And I was surprised to find out that he was very much interested. Actually, before I even brought the subject up, I thought we would, first we'll talk about his career and then various endeavors. But no, almost as soon as we started talking, he brought that up and he said, and he wanted to talk about it. That's what he was most excited about. So yeah, so we devoted a large part of the conversation to that.
Yeah, there's a new wave of military acknowledgement about the UFO presence and the UFO mystery. The world has been told UFOs are real. We have them on video, the famous video footage by Commander Underwood of the Tic Tac UFO off the west coast of California. Commander David Fravor is another story I reported on. He's the fighter pilot that chased a UFO. So our United States government, kind of slow to the game, has started admitting and providing evidence and proof and saying we have active programs to study this. But some people are claiming your article was a sort of exaggeration, or sorry, it was a sort of publicity stunt for Professor Eshed's book.
He did do the interview to promote his book. Otherwise, I don't know if he would have done an interview at this time. But that's very common. I mean, usually a person of this stature would give an interview, would grant an interview for a reason. And I don't think he was up to any publicity stunt. Actually, he's not that type of person. He's a science person and he's
a serious man.
I don't think he's very knowledgeable about media and publicity stunts and all that stuff. He was just doing what his PR person told him he needs to do, and that was to grant an interview. That's all. But we should always consider that interest in that subject always rises at various times of growing distrust in the establishment and governments and media. And we've seen that back in the 90s, and when the internet was growing, and we see it now, and we know why, right now with all the fake news and social media stuff, that people are gradually growing impatient, and they don't trust anymore the regular media and the governments and the establishment, and so ufology comes back to the foreground, and it's being discussed more heavily. I remember the wave that we had when the X-Files was broadcast back in the 90s. So I would suggest discussing it, of course, and urging our governments to give us whatever information they might have, but keeping some sense of skepticism, a sense of skepticism, because we still don't. I don't know about you, but as far as I'm concerned, I never came across any physical evidence of such.
Yeah, I mean, the seeker is the finder. People need to dedicate, a lot of time to getting to the bottom of this complex, woven mystery of what are UFOs? Are they machines visiting here? Where are they from? What are their intent? I guess my question for you as a journalist is, well, one, you've just urged that other countries do tell us the information they have. And I agree with you. I think that this information is a right. We have a right to know if we're alone in the universe. If we have evidence to the contrary that we're alone, we should know it as a global culture. But as a journalist, you have to have a good bullshit meter. You have to be able to read people.
Right.
When you interviewed Professor Eshed, can you tell me, did he seem to truly believe the things he's quoted as saying?
Yeah, very much so. He is totally into it, and one good thing about him is that everything is kind of documented. He has documents for everything that he claims is true, and he also again and again to show me various articles and documents and videos and what have you. And he has this really big library of his research from the last decade or so. So he's truly, I got the impression that he was very much convinced himself, and not only that he is also convinced that he has the evidence. And he kept saying that the mainstream academy will not cooperate on that, and that he wasn't able to get their cooperation or consent. But still, he said that at this point in his career, he earned his whatever his awards or his credentials, and he doesn't need to be that cautious anymore, and that's why he wants to come out with it.
Right. He spoke about a lot of things that I've reported on, and scientists and people within the military that I've interviewed for my movies and for my social media. For example, he mentioned Robert Bigelow. He mentioned the NIDS, National Institute of Discovery Science organization that studied Skinwalker Ranch. He mentions the Bigelow Advanced Aerospace Space Studies, maybe not by name, but that was the Defense Intelligence Agency group working under OSAP that did these experiments. So I know the scientific community has had an allergy to looking at the evidence, and it's a big shame.
Well, he also mentioned the thing in Hawaii, the Oumuamua. I don't know if I pronounced
it. The deep space, I guess you'd call asteroid.
And Professor Lade from Harvard, who was quoted saying that it was a UFO. And he was also talking about stuff we already heard about, like the various American presidents that have said before that they had close contacts, or Eisenhower signing an agreement with UFOs to have their base in Nevada. So yeah, he was talking about all of this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question that people want to know is someone of that military stature, that political stature, is he speaking from what he has read and deduced, or is he speaking from personal experience where he's engaged other scientists?
My impression was that yeah, he was very, as I've said, well educated about the existing media and other publications, but he also said a couple of times that he was speaking to his colleagues either at various academic institutes and at NASA, and that they were saying that he heard stuff from them that he is not he cannot quote directly or repeat or publicize yet, but yeah, he also learned stuff from his connections with people who investigate the subject and not only the media.
Regarding UFOs, he has direct information that he can't disclose.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. Yeah.
Fascinating. So, because your article, it a bombshell across the world, and it was kind of parsed into these little quotes. The parts that made it in the translation, I got this translation right off of your paper's official Facebook page. There's 7 quotes, and I just want to read them for whoever watches this. And I want to know from you: is this lost in translation? So let me just read you the 7, and then see what
Yeah,
you
go
say.
ahead.
Okay. The UFOs asked not to advertise that they are here. Humanity is not ready yet. Trump was on the verge of finding out, but the aliens in the Galactic Federation say, wait, let the spirits calm down. They don't want us to have mass hysteria. They want to make us sane and understanding first. They waited until today for humanity to evolve and reach a stage where we will understand what space and spaceships are. He said there is an agreement between the US government and the aliens. He said they signed a contract with us to experiment here. They are also investigating and trying to understand the rule of the universe, and they want us as helpers. There's a ground base on Mars, and that's where the representatives and our American astronauts are too. And he said, if I came up with what I was saying 5 years ago today, I would have been hospitalized. But every place that until today I went to the academy with this, they said the guy has lost his mind. Today, we are already talking differently. I have nothing to lose. I received my degrees and awards. Did he say those things to you, or is that lost in translation?
Oh yeah, no. He said all of these things. All of these are really you're quoting from various snippets from the interview. But yeah, he said all of these things. Maybe with the exception of the agreement between U.S. government and the UFOs. He was referring to the Eisenhower thing, and he quoted his granddaughter Jackie, I think.
Okay, understood.
Eisenhower's daughter, who said her grandfather told her that there was such an agreement. I don't think that would be my only
I mean,
exception.
this is
He
why
was quoting her, and all the other stuff that you've quoted was right on the nose. Yeah, it was that's basically what he was saying.
yeah, this is why the context of your full article, which was eloquently written, is so important, because he's not claiming this himself as an official. He is saying this is one part of the story or mythology or story itself of ufology. He's telling you somebody else said this, and that's so important that people understand that distinction. The other thing he said that really made me stand back a little bit was, where did he come up with the term Galactic Federation? Was that a generalized term, or was that a specific thing he was quoting?
That's you know what I would have to kind of blame myself for not further investigating with him the subject of the Galactic Confederation or Federation. I didn't get into that because there was so much to talk about, and I cannot really tell you what he was referring to. Only that he mentioned that they had 9 members. All are better evolved than we are at this point, and that they were examining us, and and that they have specifically asked before not to be exposed yet here on Earth. But that's all I got on this subject. Maybe we should have gone further into it, but we did not.
So Professor Eshed is a sane man.
Well, you know what? I'm just a journalist, I'm not a professional on that. But if you talk to him, you get the one-on-one with him. He appears to be very much sane, and he's a fascinating person to talk to, and
Yes.
and he's not at all out of touch in any way that I was able to note. Really, I mean, he's very much here and now, and he's there in the room, and he's as far as I can tell, he's very sane. Yeah.
So he's telling us from information he might personally know from agencies like NASA, but also what he's deduced over time, that UFOs are real and we're being visited by other intelligent beings. That was the crux of what he said, despite the details, whatever they may be.
What I think we can take from that is that obviously we are not alone. It doesn't make any sense that we are alone. Again, there are like 300 million stars, so many of various galactics that they have the right conditions for life forms to evolve. And I think we can pretty much, I would say, take that for granted, that we are not alone in the universe. And, if we're not alone, it's just a matter of time before we do get to contact.
If not already.
Our colleagues. I don't know if they're colleagues. I don't know what they are.
Other people from other places, right?
Other species and other life forms, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, look, it was a truly fascinating article when I was able to read what I believe is the full version, and I really do hope that it goes beyond the punchline, beyond the just the quotes from your article, that people can read the context, because it does seem that Professor Eshed is a very thoughtful and serious person, and he's saying things that have great impact if any of it is true. And I know we all want to know the truth. My curiosity is weaponized. That's what I like to say, because it's a weapon for me, is being able to speak with someone like you, talk with him. It's one step closer to knowing the truth. So I just want to thank you for an eloquent article, and thank you for speaking with me. And let me know if you find out anything else about this in your journalism.
If there's any developments, I will let you know.
Thanks, Renan.
Same here. Take care.